I just stop the music for myself.
Because you enjoy yourself too much, maybe me cut your fun. Me cut your fun. You know,
Yeah.
we're here again. We're here again, Caribbean Current. Sorry for the delay, folks. It's all my fault. All my fault.
Oh, you know something? I was about to blame you. It's a good thing that you take
No,
the blame.
I like to take responsibility for my actions. I like to take full responsibility.
Some people don't like the blame. So me want to put it on them first and make them
No,
take it.
no, you're not catch me today.
Oh, you
Full
do?
responsibility. I'm here. Been a busy day, but always a pleasure to be able to come back in and connect with you and the good folks that listen to us here every week. Um,
And people are
so
listening because them are come to me and tell me all kind of thing with them agree with me on this point, yeah, but then disagree with me on that point and so forth. And I said
oh
to myself, that's why you listen to the show.
yes,
Yeah,
don't you want to have something to talk about?
exactly.
Don't you want to have points to refer
Exactly.
to? We just give you
Exactly.
the points to refer to and the
Yeah. So
context.
come trace way off. Who trace way off a week time again? Wait name again.
Oh, we'll wait to see if he comes in. I think it's Mark. It's
Yeah,
Mark.
him trace way off every week. Okay. He never agree with us. But it's okay. That's the fun part of this.
Yeah.
So
So,
it's your show. I'm ready.
oh, you're ready to go. So, this week on Caribbean Currents, we're going to be doing a couple things if we have time, if time allows. One of them is, as we promised last week, we would do the roundup, the summary of the leaders' presentation of the budget in Jamaica. Both leaders, um, Leo found a way to summarize summarize
How you mean?
because there's no way me there go watch a 5 hour presentation from the Prime Minister. Didn't have the time for it, but so we're going to talk about that. We're also expecting to have a guest, our Arnaldo Brown, who's going to be joining us. And we talk about politics, we talk about culture, we talk about music. So we're going to touch a little bit on music as well. And we've been promising one of our audience members that we would discuss tourism. So we're going to talk about one aspect of tourism, and that will be later on in the show.
I think you're misleading the people. Let me know. Right? When you talk about tourism, beach and a tourism at a fight.
A big fight. But so we're going to talk about beach access. But that's if time allows, and if we get to all of these things that we have. We have these lofty goals of getting to it.
Yes. I wish
So
me send the thing them because I can't find them myself. I send them to you, but I don't know if I send them. Where did I send them?
email, Google Docs.
Oh, on Google Docs. No wonder. All right. I just need to
Yeah.
go to Google Docs.
Yeah.
All right.
So
You're well prepared, don't?
I try, and I like that you help to get the preparation going as it relates to that. So as we said, we're going to talk about the budget presentations. Leo, what's your initial take before we go into nitty
All
gritty?
right.
What's your
My
initial take?
personal take.
Your personal take.
There are two different positions that I saw.
Yes.
One was all about business, meaning not issues.
No issues.
Right?
There are no issues. Just we're gonna keep doing what we're doing.
No. What I'm saying is, you asked me about the two,
Yes.
right?
So one is business.
One is pure business, and the other one was I saw a lot of gimmicks, and I had to wade through it to find out what the issues are worth there. Because when I listen to the thing, I want it to be engaging. I try to play with the numbers and play with the you don't have to impress me that you're a funny guy. I want to see the straight talk. That's what this is a serious business.
Give us the goods. Give us the goods.
Come on, the country's business is at hand, and it's important that I hear exactly what you say. Now, how you present it must be engaging enough so much you want to hear it,
Yeah.
So the two that I found Golding to be a lot more engaging because he was hitting the points one after the other and giving us solid foundations and solid plans and backing up the plans afterwards. And while I thought his goals were a little bit broader as a national goals, and I thought also, and I said I look at Dr. Holness, his were more miniature. So, but I understand what he's trying to do because he's trying now at this point in time to reach his people on their terms. I may understand that, but at this point in time, me like to see the broad goal because one, it is national budget, and two, we are going in a election. So no PR business not candidate, and so I want to see broader goals. But not that he doesn't have broader goals, but I saw a lot more direct things towards the people, one-on-one individuals. That kind of thing. That's the difference.
Yeah. My take was what I expected. I expected that the leaders would show the party's position from a financial lens. And what came across to me, funny enough, the Prime Minister's presentation, and for those of you just joining us, we're talking about the budget presentations in Jamaica that recently wrapped up. So the Prime Minister's presentation, I would say, shows what is their priority. Their priority is to say, we are fiscally the party, and we're going to make these moves financially in terms of $1 billion here, 1,000 there, and so on. While the opposition, because they're not in power, they can't say too much about a dollar figure.
Yes.
But what they did is speak to what they consider to be important as a party, which is the people. So, funny enough, the Prime Minister's speech was longer.
Much longer.
But Golding's speech had more detail, if that makes sense.
That is absolutely what I found.
If that makes sense to people.
Yeah.
But Golding, opposition leader, he's he's going into more detail. So yes, we want to expand, people's access to housing.
Right.
Here's what we're going to do.
That's what I saw. Yes.
This and this. We're going to take care of our people. So we have a social justice platform. This, and this. All the beach thing, what we're going to talk about later, come up in a social justice platform.
I know it did.
So I hear what you're saying, Leo, about meat. Yes. But for me, it wasn't necessarily meat because he doesn't have a finance budget to offer.
I agree.
But what he has is goals to offer, but goals with subtext and points.
Absolutely. And I like that.
And what I felt like the Prime Minister offered was, we're going to keep doing what we're doing because we're great. And we'll throw a couple numbers here and there for appeasement.
Because I look at, for example, the $1,000 that he added to
minimum wage.
Minimum wage.
Yeah.
Is it 1,000 from 1,500?
1,000 to 16,000 by a 40-day.
I'm not so sure.
40-hour work week.
I'm not so sure what the impact is that, but here it is again. Where he's trying to reach the small man and say, "Hey, listen, I put some more money in your pocket." You understand? While Golding will say, "Listen, I'm looking at the teachers. For many years, our teachers are leaving the country And when they leave the country, we don't have no way to keep them. We don't put nothing at all together to keep them. So here's what I want to do. I want to do this. I want to do that. I want to do this. And it doesn't matter if he has the money to do it, because to me, once he gets into power, he has to do
figure it out.
Yeah.
Figure it out where the
So
money
that was the difference I saw.
Yeah. And for me, it was a, as you said, business budget versus a people's budget.
Yes.
And what was very clear to me was Golding defined who he sees as the people.
Yeah, oh boy.
By what he was advocating for.
Yes.
It was definitely not advocating for the richer upper echelon per se, apart from some policy conversations that he had. But his conversation is man on the ground. This is what.
But that's the difference between the two parties, right?
Anyway,
many people don't know this.
Yeah.
That the mantra for the People's National Party, it's in the name. People's National Party, right? Meaning that everything that they do, you're going to hear Michael Manley say the people and the people and the people, and then on the JLP side, they will say and the economics and the foreign exchange, that kind of thing. Yes. It's a difference, totally different, right?
Yeah.
So
both have a place. The challenge we've had is that there is such a split in priorities.
Yes,
that's been the challenge over the years. But speaking to your comment on substance, Leo, I think this clip will show some showmanship that was happening.
Okay.
So the DNA test was done. The results are in. When it comes to 15-year-old fiscal discipline, PNP, you are not the father.
So, I didn't even know that you had that. But it's a good idea of what I saw.
Yeah.
I saw a lot of that
gimmickry,
fancy dancing. Yes, gimmickry going on, and he didn't do that. Golden didn't do much of that. In fact, he's not that type of person. That's not his personality.
That's not his style.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
But let me see here. Karen Rose says, good evening. Thank you, Karen, for joining us. And we see the rest of you coming in. And for those of you just joining us, we're talking about the budget presentations in Jamaica by the leaders, because, you can listen to the finance minister, but you want to hear what the leaders think are priorities.
So here's one priority for the government of Jamaica, party: upgrade or replace over 55 critical bridges under accelerated bridge renewal and priority bridge program. So my question though, because we have had bridges problem for the longest time, right?
Candy Memorial.
We've had bridges problem for the longest time. Why are we just getting to it, right? Because you see people that go over river and I walk on one piece of wood or one piece of branch or something like that. And that happens all the time. Every time we have a water, boom, boom, booms. And then I'm seeing it here as though this is such a novel idea.
Brilliant.
But then again, I heard the Golden said he outlined the plans that he had for the teachers. And I said, why weren't those things in play a long time? Why weren't we giving teachers the opportunity to own a house easily and own car?
Incentivize them staying.
Why was that given? And why isn't it given? Period. Because that seemed to be the best way to keep people have to feel comfortable that they can move around and they can get to school and they can do this. And it's not just teachers, but nurses. All of the civil servants need to get these types of things in them hands so that it's no problem at all. And so I don't understand how this becomes a novel thing for the PNP to put into play that the GLP has had 8 years that they couldn't have done it in that.
And speaking of infrastructure, so for years, infrastructure is not addressed. For years. But you will find that infrastructure that impacts trade, impacts business people is done. So, toll road and those things have been put in place.
Yes.
What I saw, interestingly, is a plan to close Tinson and have it be a storage place, so extending the wharf basically and changing
Tinson
Marcus Garvey Drive.
Wow.
So as a person who come from that area, me kind of concerned.
Tinson change it into
they want to put Tinson over into the Norman Manley International Airport and then take that space that Tinson occupies and create additional storage for trade from the wharves.
Are they going to make more roads over there at Norman Manley? The policy just roads, the more widen it?
How it don't go.
Because the infrastructure, as you say, must be in place. If you don't put whole heap of plane over there, so you have to have space for car and truck and everything. I'll come, right?
Yeah. So I'm curious to see that, because Marcus Garvey Drive is also a major carriageway to downtown Kingston.
And it's a problem too.
And always has traffic and bottleneck. Plus coming back, you're going to hit like Causeway and all of that. So me curious still how this will play out. So that's one. But as we say, the bridges thing, like, I don't even know what them harping on the bridges about. I don't know what that is about. I feel like it's because there was like those flooding incidences recently where we saw like major erosion. So I feel like that was to appease some entity, because I don't understand why we're harping on the bridges when we need to build no bridge from time. So anyway,
I didn't look on them still. I didn't look on them. Let me see. Geospatial Training Center to enhance land survey. Social housing program to support the most vulnerable. He will commence construction of more than 19,000 19,000 homes.
Yes. And Mark in his response said he's going to do 50,000 in the course of 3 years or something like that.
I think I heard something like this the other day, right? The JLP said that they were going to build a certain amount of housing. Right, 6,000 housing over a 4-year period. I remember what the period is, right?
Yeah.
But by the time the period done, they only did 200.
Yeah.
But they're going to build 19,000 housing solutions.
I like how the number specific is. I like how the number specific.
Oh my God.
We can watch and count. You understand?
Yeah, man. Yeah. Proof it is the pudding, right? All right. This is all NHT. They have a lot of home improvement loans for 7 years. Factories Corporation of Jamaica with projects planned for Bound Brook, Ligreel, Nago Head, and what factories Corporation of Jamaica is manufacturing?
I think I have an NHT clip here. Let me see.
Okay, all right.
In fact, Madam Speaker, we have given a policy directive to the NHT that all their resources should now be directed at producing houses that are around this price point. NHT will not get involved in any new development of houses above this price point.
So Mark's response came back at that, because Mark said NHT has the aim of the NHT was affordable housing.
Yeah.
And NHT has been putting up structures worth 23 million and 35 million and so on. Right? So now you come back now and say, oh, we're going to do 9 million. We're going to keep it in the 9 million range.
When the NHT came out, it was just to build housing for the poor man so that they can have house. Because we had a lot of like zinc and shots around, right? And so they started building a lot of what do you call it again? A lot of I need to send the link. It's to build a lot of housing scheme homes, and they build a lot of them. And then I remember giving the small man an opportunity in Montego Bay. I think I said this last week. If it's not a show, I said it on. I did say it on another show.
Yeah.
Where in Montego Bay they built. They have some starter home where there are four.
Oh yeah, it's on the show you talked about it.
Right, at the show, right? And within each wall is a home, is a starter home.
Yeah.
And if you see what it looked like now, my God, it's like rich people neighborhood now. This was 1979, 80.
Yeah.
And I remember how, me couldn't afford to buy one, because me just leave college. It was like $8,000 for it. $8,000. It was just pretty cheap, but pretty expensive for me just leaving college. And if I had left college right for 2 years, I would have been able to buy one.
Yeah.
But that is affordable.
Yeah.
Because you get land and start a building. And that makes sense because I was telling someone about my book today, like I tell them that I grew up in a tenement yard. And they say, we never hear about tenement yard in a country, right? Well, yeah, you're right, because tenement yards are in Kingston mostly. But where I lived was a true tenement yard. When we grew up, was a true tenement yard with building and 6 families in a 6-room, not bedrooms, 6 family in a 6-room.
Yeah.
Right? And then they have the kitchen in the middle and so forth.
Yeah.
Now, there's nothing wrong. Everybody in that country generally have a piece of land where they build one little piece of structure upon it where they can stay. And if people have land, even if you give them for agriculture, they will build one little structure upon it. And that's why you don't see a lot of tenement yards in the country. And so I'm not so sure. What I'm saying is that if you give people the opportunity for a starter home, they'll finish it.
Yeah.
You just have to do it.
Yeah. People literally just need a start.
A start.
And in a country where affordability is like so out of reach, people literally just need a start. I'm curious to see what these $9 million
well, the other thing too, right?
Look like.
I know that I've heard, and I don't have the articles now, but I've heard in the past where governments take money out of NHT.
Yeah.
I don't like that idea.
Mark addressed it in his speech.
Oh, he did? I didn't see that part. But that don't make no sense at all to me, that you are taking people's money and putting it aside for them. And then you're going to take it for government business. That don't make any sense to me at all to me, Virgin. It don't make no sense to me. You're not supposed to do that.
Yeah.
It's like you plan all your life to become a part of a program and you have put money in it, you have throw your partner. And the person who you have throw the partner with, take the money and go buy one car, and then you can't get your partner. You know what I mean?
Get your draw.
Your draw.
Keisha Hill, I need some clarity on this. Leo, maybe you know this reference. Volcano green, lava orange. Keisha Hill.
I am not going to touch that, Keisha.
Keisha Hill are the comedian tonight. So, there's one more clip I wanted to play, Leo.
Yeah, well.
That speaks to what I have a contention with, and I think maybe other people might.
Thousands of Jamaicans are in line to benefit from state assistance and policy adjustments in the coming weeks. Our reporter Dwayne Anderson watched the Prime Minister's presentation in which the announcements were made and filed this report.
The dividends of good governance is how Prime Minister Andrew Holness described the policy decisions he announced in Gordon House on Thursday. And among those getting a payout from those dividends will be vulnerable Jamaicans not on PATH or any other social assistance program.
As we continue our mission to build a stronger and more inclusive Jamaica, we recognize that many of our citizens are in need but do not benefit from any existing government program. To address this, we are introducing the $1 billion Solidarity Program. And in its first iteration, we will be providing a one-time cash grant of $20,000 to 50,000 vulnerable individuals.
The 50,000 beneficiaries of this $20,000 to $50,000 one-time cash grant will include youth not in school, elderly residents who are suffering, disabled or sick Jamaicans, or small business owners who have suffered loss due to a natural disaster. Minimum wage earners were also not left out, another increase for them, meaning the JLP administration has overseen a near 160% increase in minimum wage since they took office in 2016.
We are pleased to announce that starting from June 1, 2025, the national minimum wage will increase from $15,000 per 40-hour work week to $16,000 per 40-hour work week. This represents a 6.7% increase, reinforcing our commitment to improving the livelihoods of our lowest paid workers while ensuring economic stability.
As for farmers, they are critical to the cost of living crisis impacting some Jamaicans and can ultimately help to reduce the price Jamaicans pay for their foods. Farmers are therefore to benefit from massive GCT cuts for some inputs.
I have therefore directed the Minister of Finance and Public Service to do the necessary amendment to the GCT Act to make seeds zero rated. We care for our farmers. We promote food security now, and we have to increase our international competitiveness and productivity.
So,
all right, tell me what you think, because I have a whole heap of things to say on that.
Leo Behead hurt me. So,
yes.
The first point, a $20,000 grant to 50,000 Jamaicans. One-time grant. And him calling it solidarity. Lord of mercy. Solidarity. Right. Anyway, then the other point is minimum wage going up from 15 to 16. And then the last point was around the GCT, $0 on seeds, right? Zero.
Take the first one from me. More year, what you think about the first one?
So my challenge is, Leo, I think maybe because when I visit Jamaica and I go shopping to the supermarket or to the corner shop, I am aware of what $20,000 can get you. Maybe because of that. Why I think this must be a joke. $20,000.
It's deeper than that.
Yes.
Here's the depth.
Yes.
The depth is when you announce as a prime minister.
Yes.
That, and this is all my opinion, okay?
Yes.
It now come from nobody because we never hear the thing, okay?
Yes.
When you announce as a prime minister of a country like Jamaica, just ahead of a election,
that you're going to have a handout.
You are giving out $1 billion. You are saying that you may release the money right around election, and nobody can say that the election was rigged. Do you understand me? Nobody can say that in NAP because we promised that we're going to give it to you. This is the time that we're going to give it to you. And that's
time.
To me, that's the kind of gimmickry that I am talking about, because Who in Jamaica can use $20,000 other than one time? To do
Literally
what?
one time. Literally only one time.
To do what? Because after you give the first $20,000, if he promised another $100,000, then nobody not see it.
Nobody knows.
Because election are done.
But look at it. Look at the mind game. Look at the strategy of it, Leo.
Yeah,
Because handout mentality, them appealing
that's
to,
my
right?
point.
Handout mentality, 50,000 only. Jamaica has 3.1 much million people, but a 50,000 only a owner go get it, and we're going to decide. Maybe some people out of work, maybe some older people, maybe So
No,
you know
man.
how that going go, right?
How much? 14 parishes.
Yes.
14 trees of how much? 42. That says about 15,000 people in a tree parish, 3 key parishes. I am saying that I don't like, because he didn't give an explanation as to how, why, and where.
No, I'm saying it's to relieve people who are going through hard time. But here's the thing. People who are not witty or in tune with these games will see it and say, oh my goodness, thank God for the Prime Minister them. Thank God for the JLP, them are going to give away a little something.
Yes.
Even though that 20K will be done in less than a day. In an hour. It can't even pay a bill.
No.
It can't even pay down a bill.
So that's what the plan is. You know what the plan is. And so it's unfair, because there's no other time in the government's history where it just give out money like that unless it's for a particular reason. Like when I work for it, go on straw bus, or you can clean up the side of the street or something like that for people. And you just don't give it out just because them need it. That doesn't sound like good government practice.
No.
Handouts.
But it's strategic practice.
I know.
Strategic practice. Similarly, you make it sound like it's a big deal to give another $1,000 on the minimum wage, which is a 6.7% increase, Leo. According to them. So if woe be unto you if your increase only gets you another $1,000. When them give themselves 200 plus.
That's why I said to you, Danny, that there was the business side, the polling was all about business, and this was a lot of gimmicks, a lot of little play on people's minds, and I don't like that. That's not for us.
Yeah,
for me, that is.
This is a strategy that works.
Yeah, it does, because that get them vote.
Yes, because it happened 2 election cycles ago. I don't know if you remember. Yeah. Not 2 election cycles, more than 2 election cycles. The year when Portia lost.
2016,
2 cycles, right?
Mm-hmm.
She had a budget platform. She had a how much point platform. And just weeks before the election, they released a platform. They never had nothing all along, Just before the election, they released it. And one of the things they said was tax threshold for $1 million.
Yes, 1.5 million.
But how it was presented, Leo, was we're going to give you $1 million. Yes. Because that's how the common man heard it. I remember being in Jamaica and watching the news, and this woman, the stronghold people there.
Yes.
You said me
can't give you $1 million.
And I said, did she hear? Did she read the platform? No,
because the less of a listener you are, the less of an educated person you are,
and a reader,
and less reader you are, then people just want to hear what they want to hear, and you just say it so that they can take it wherever they want to take it.
Yeah,
and that's it.
So that's where that went. Yeah. And telling farmers 0% on seeds. Okay, cute, nice story. Farmers right now can't compete.
We have 250,000 small farmers in Jamaica.
Yeah.
they should not be paying for fees from long time
Anyway.
But if you want to spurn growth,
Yeah.
you can't charge the people them. I mean, you should even give them free fertilizer. That should be a part of the deal.
Yeah, they can't compete with your imports.
No.
And they can't compete in the local market. No, they can't compete.
They can't compete.
Can't compete. No.
They don't have the business.
0% GCT.
Acumen.
0% GCT. I'm sure they'll appreciate it, but I don't think it will accomplish much.
Yeah, absolutely.
Other points, Leo. What I found interesting from both parties was there was no emphasis on global, like counteracting what's happening in the globe. There was
what part of what's happening? You have to be specific now, you know.
No,
a politician
we're not even talking about Trump, you know.
I'm not talking about Trump.
No, we're not talking about Trump. I'm talking about how are we preparing for a future. So the Prime Minister's report says they're going to incorporate AI in schools, and they're going to teach people AI, and they're going to, I mean, it's a queer. Most of you don't even know what AI is. People don't think it's a catchphrase to throw out here.
Listen, we have police wearing body worn camera, and then now capture
not turn it not turn it on. So but like what is your structural fiscal plan for the outside, right? Because how do we compete on the global markets in all aspects? Like, you notice at the end them kind of throwing culture, Leo, them throwing cultural things. Arnaldo is here. Them throwing look at this a culture, and them throwing look at that. It's so mind-boggling to me that
I think they don't really care. The cash cow right now is tourism.
Yeah.
And as long as they're showing growth in tourism, and get no advisory that go blow down the numbers and stuff, them all right. How often do you hear Jamaica talk about foreign policy? We don't.
We don't.
Because the first thing that we go do is say we don't have the money.
Yeah.
But the best way to create wealth is to have relationships outside of Jamaica.
Yeah.
To create relationships so that relationships can garner you opportunities that you don't generally see just by looking out there. You understand?
And to shore up your relationships regionally.
Absolutely.
But anyway, we have our guest.
Okay.
Me and Leo will talk forever now, but
he's here. Oh, Arnold is here?
He's here. Okay. So we're gonna bring him in. Welcome, Arnaldo Brown, lecturer.
Thank.
Let's see how the connection is going.
Your connection is kind of
iffy there, Arnaldo. Are you hearing us?
Yeah, are you hearing me?
Yes, hearing you.
Yes, I'm hearing you very well.
All right.
Yeah, man. Yeah, you're now.
All right, good.
Good to see you.
We welcome you.
Same here.
Welcome you to Caribbean Currents. I know you're good friends. We welcome you, lecturer at Mona School of Business and Management, former Minister of State in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade, and you oversaw the mainstreaming of migration and development policy, as well as drafting of the diaspora and development policy. So we welcome you to this discussion platform called Caribbean Currents.
And we intentionally
thank you.
We intentionally talk about the budget debates before you come on, so that
you don't get caught.
You don't get caught
in that web.
Yeah.
Oh my God. So I'm gonna let her lead off with her questions, because I know that you have I've known Arnaldo for the better part of 12 years, and what has caught me is his ability on the fly to speak of things that sometimes I don't even know what they are, and when they come up, I can always depend on him to hear his views about where to turn? Where are we going to turn? What's going to happen? And it's not just about Jamaica. It's about foreign policy and everything. So I'm happy to have him here this evening, and thank you for joining us. We have a lot of questions for you, and we hope that you can hang with us so that we can flush out some of these things.
Sure.
Yeah, so speaking to your strengths, having already served in government and so on, are there any points where you find, because we were just wrapping up our conversation, and what is missing from the budget conversation from both sides?
On both sides.
Are there any points that you said, well, how come that wasn't addressed or pulled forward? What is there anything there for you?
Probably I'm biased. On my side, I'm not sure there's anything that is missing per se. I heard you when I came on talking about foreign policy.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you were saying that foreign policy was missing.
Yes, that's what we're saying.
It was lacking
from the budget. But I believe that the opposition spokesperson would have touched on diaspora engagement.
Yes,
I think they did, and
yes,
that is part of the engagement. Then there's the issue of foreign trade, and I think in relation to the budget, there was the talk of the logistic hub. Now, if we understand the concept of the logistic hub, that is integral. Foreign trade would be integral to that. Foreign relations would be integral to that.
Yeah.
So there may not have been a explicit, point made. But if you're talking about a logistic hub, you can't talk about logistic hub without having relationship with various partners. And that is particularly true now because there's this talk about repossessing the Panama Canal.
Well, yeah, I'm going to stop you right there because I like the discussion where you're going with that, because the
Yes.
Panama Canal and logistics hubs tied in together. But
Right.
there's something else. There's something else that's happening.
Yes.
One thing with it, I didn't know. Did you know that Mexico is cutting Mexico a channel that will go
working with China?
Yes, work around the Panama Canal.
That's interesting because I know that there was an attempt. It's either Nicaragua or Honduras. I think it's Nicaragua. They were also contemplating a channel with the Chinese, but I'm not sure exactly what happened with that. Right?
Oh my God! Yes.
But put it this way, and you would be aware that the U.S. Secretary of State was in Jamaica today, right? Yeah. And one of the points they made, not necessarily in the press conference, but certainly in the pre-arrival bulletin, was that Jamaica sits on a major sea lane. So all the traffic that is passing through this region must transit either off the coast of Jamaica or through Kingston Harbor, right? Correct. And in fact, before the last PNP administration had left office, the dredging of the Kingston Harbor to facilitate post-Panamax ships, because they are building some mega ships now that would not be able to transit through the canal. So that's another development that we have to watch, right?
Yeah.
So that is why either the expansion of the existing canal or some alternate route,
yes,
across the Isthmus, whether it is Honduras, whether it is Mexico, wherever, is contemplated. And there is the view that we may conceive of foreign policy narrowly, in the sense that we take a political approach, but there's also economic diplomacy. And the idea of positioning Jamaica as a logistic hub would require some amount of economic diplomacy, right? So we have, for instance, what they call partial scope trade agreements with various players in the region. Those have to be reworked.
Yes.
Those have to be renegotiated. Air service agreement, because
Yeah.
the logistic hub is not only going to deal with sea, but it will also deal with
Yeah.
land. It will deal
Yeah.
with air, right?
Yeah.
So air services agreements. There is talk about direct travel from Nigeria to
To
Kingston,
Jamaica. Yeah.
right? That,
One
that
flight.
that is in the works. It isn't yet completed. There's a
Yeah.
long way to go.
Yeah.
And then that has implication for own air capacity.
Yeah.
Are we going to bring back Air Jamaica?
Hmm.
Those are issues that may need to be contemplated as part of a menu of engagements that will be required to make Jamaica as Tony Hilton says, the fourth node, right, in terms of logistics.
Yes.
And I think that's very big for Jamaica,
Well,
and
yeah.
that will involve foreign affairs, foreign trade, and our diplomats who are strategically located throughout the world.
Well,
Yeah.
what we were saying before you came on about foreign affairs, it wasn't much about the budget, but that we're not seeing a lot of activities from our Jamaican or existing government to reach out to the larger world population to
And the
bring
region.
the relationship into Jamaica. And I mean, and you brought in the logistics hubs, which is something that I have not heard talked about in the past 8-9 years. This was a
But
big talk.
true. I mean, it was sort of mothballed. I'm
Yeah.
not sure why. But what I would say though is that foreign policy, tend to be somewhat behind the scenes,
Yeah.
right?
Mm.
And therefore we do have embassies strategically located. We do have a network of honorary consuls across the globe.
Yeah.
And even though we may not see or hear some of the activities that are taking place, it does not mean that nothing is taking place, right? So,
I agree
I
with that.
mean,
I agree.
for
Yeah. Like
instance,
the
I can
Nigeria
say,
conversation is with the
eh,
council.
exactly. So
Yeah.
I can say and I'm not taking any tears out of school. I would have spoken to the High Commission in Nigeria recently.
Yeah.
And I'm aware that they are in negotiations about air service agreement, and
Yeah.
what he points out, which is true, that these things take time,
Yeah.
right? And you don't want to run ahead and make an announcement, and then people may say, but we hear this announcement, what is really happening?
Yeah.
And I want to tell a little story here. There was a former Minister of Foreign Affairs who used to travel the globe, and I think he was also Minister of Industry and Investment and Commerce, but he was Foreign Affairs for a time. And he would travel to Europe, and every time he would come back and them ask him what him bring back, he would say it's in the pipeline, right? And they started to call him the pipeline man, to the point where they had cartoons depicting him with a pipeline.
Yeah.
But years after he would have left that portfolio and taken up another one as Minister of Development, the work that he would have done to woo these investors began to manifest itself with the plethora of hotels that now litter the north coast of Jamaica, the Spanish chain.
Yeah.
And what it tells us is that there's a gestation period,
Yeah.
and a lot of this is really done off camera, behind the scenes. And usually when the minister comes before the camera to do the signing, all the legwork would have been completed already,
Yeah.
right? And we are just now seeing the end product.
I'm
But I
happy to
will
hear that.
accept,
I'm happy to hear
I will accept that there are some persons who may not appreciate the value of foreign affairs, and they may see it as um, esoteric, for want of a better description.
Yeah.
But foreign affairs underpins and undergirds the entire government,
Literally.
right? The entire government, every single solitary ministry is underpinned and supported by foreign relations and engagement.
Yeah. 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 And I think why I was curious is because of the current environment that we're in, right? Where you have
Yes,
Marco Rubio coming into the island today, and he was addressing the Cuban issue.
right?
And one of the
give us some thoughts on that, no?
I need the thoughts on that, because one of my concerns why I brought up the foreign relations is I feel like Jamaica currently is kind of taking a hands-off approach regionally and not moving as a fist with CARICOM.
Yeah. Well, I have to be fair. I viewed the exchange with the prime minister, and a journalist raised the question about the Cuban doctors in Jamaica,
Mm-hmm.
and he pointed out that there are 400 Cuban doctors presently in Jamaica,
Mm-hmm.
that the Jamaican government subscribes to the International Labour Organization standards. We have no
Mm-hmm.
evidence of any
And the
human
breach.
trafficking
Mm-hmm.
or any breach,
Mm-hmm.
and Jamaica is committed to maintaining that, right? And the Secretary of State indicated that they were not singling out Jamaica,
Yeah,
right?
he said I'm not
Um,
talking about Jamaica.
right? Is that singling out Jamaica, and he clarified the U.S. position where he's saying that they
They're
have no
covering
issue with
labor.
Cuban doctors working in Jamaica. That their issue is whether or not the doctors are directly paid. As far as we are aware, the doctors are directly paid here in Jamaica, right? And our health system would be significantly compromised if that program were to be interrupted.
Yeah.
So from my vantage point, I have to say that taking the exchange at face value, the US seem to have somewhat clarified its position, and that is not an outright ban, but that
Either
they have
or.
some concerns, right? That they have made a distinction between the countries who are, observing International Labour Organization. And in that regard, Jamaica is at one with the rest of CARICOM, who have come out. Mia Matley came out. Deacon Mitchell in Grenada came out. The first one who was out the block was
Gonzalez.
Ralph, right?
Gonzalez.
From St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And understandably, because they are actually running medical tourism product down in St. Vincent and Grenadines that is primarily driven by the Cubans,
Yeah.
right? So I believe, and again, in fairness, before the prime minister had come out, the minister of health had said something about it, defended the program, and then the foreign minister did come out and say something about it in defending the program. She pointed out that there was 50 years of uh, service given to the people of Jamaica
Mm-hmm.
by the Cubans.
Mm-hmm.
And we have no sign of any, breach of any international obligations or any human trafficking, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that was a fair
Summary.
position
So I sense
to,
that
to, to, to
the
hold.
the prime minister did a good job of responding to that.
Well,
That
he
concern.
stated what our position was, right?
Mhm.
And I did so adequately.
Yeah, okay.
Um, from
What
my
was your
vantage point.
thoughts on the purpose for the visit? I know that America comes down pretty often
Yeah.
and so forth, but because of what's going on in America right now, what did you
Well,
think
well,
the
well,
visit was
well, well
about?
again, well, again, I have to take it at face value. I'm not in the room,
What they say.
right? Right. I'm not in the room. So
Mhm.
I had the opportunity to read a pre-visit brief, and the pre-visit brief indicated that the US recognized that the Caribbean is its third border. And in fact, they went so far as to say its first border. Now, let's understand some things here. Now, first of all, Guyana has oil now. So that makes the Caribbean even more important
Interesting.
to the US, right? From that perspective. There's the strained relationship between the US and Venezuela.
Yes.
So obviously, if they want to now play off, as it were, an ally against someone who is less of an ally, then that
Yeah.
lends itself to that type of engagement and interaction.
Yeah.
And let us be clear that whilst the Caribbean as a whole maintains friendly relationship with Venezuela, and certainly we have nothing against the administration there, there is an issue with the border between Venezuela and
And
Guyana,
then,
Yeah.
yes,
Mhm.
I get
right?
you.
And that is a cause of concern for CARICOM.
Mhm.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't mean that we're going to. Well, obviously, Guyana is part of CARICOM, so
Yeah.
that goes without saying. We're going to defend the sovereign integrity of Guyana. That
Yeah.
is straightforward.
Yes.
So the point I'm making is that there are certain um, geopolitical realities that are now panning out based on certain resources. And bear in mind also that unlike the previous administration of Biden that was emphasizing alternative fuel, the Trump administration is drill baby drill,
Yes.
right? They see fossil and alternate as complementing each other.
So
So
Venezuela and
therefore,
Guyana are key places for them.
exactly. So therefore, they are going to have an interest in Guyana. Now, put that in context. Jamaica still remains important in the framework of U.S. engagement to the region. Not my words, their words, meaning the
I,
U.S.
wa- I was about to ask you.
Indicating that this present administration is more aligned with their
With your
thinking. Right,
yes,
right.
yes, yes, yes.
And therefore, their visit here is not surprising.
No.
And
All right.
we should also, if we go back historically, the Reagan administration was also very close to the Jamaica Labour Party administration. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm not saying
No,
it's a
no,
bad
no.
thing.
How,
We
how
That's
we
about
have
the thing.
Jamaica?
we,
How
we
about
have
Jamaica? Sorry, go
we
ahead.
have maintained positive relationship with the US
Yes.
um
Yeah.
over the
Long
time,
time.
and the
Yes.
US is one of our main allies or trading partner, right? Jamaicans have gone to the United States. They have fulfilled their potential. We
Yes,
almost
yes.
had a Jamaican in the White House as president, right?
So
Almost,
quickly though,
right?
Arnaldo,
Yes.
tell me about the relationship with Jamaica and CARICOM, the leads, CARICOM leads. How is that? Is there a strained relationship there? Is that? I mean, where are we with CARICOM?
Well, again, I'm not in the room,
Right.
right? I'm not in the room. So I'm observing from outside. I think there was an issue when our foreign minister went after the Secretary General position of the
Yeah,
Commonwealth.
Yes.
I remember that.
And in fact, the advice had come not to run.
Yeah.
right? And Jamaica went ahead anyway,
And lost.
and they lost,
Mhm.
right? As to whether that has strained the relationship with CARICOM, I cannot say from my vantage point, but certainly I would say that was not good form, because the fact is that I think there's a convention that if the region will fall behind and support a candidate that is coming from the region. Now, of course, there was an argument that she's not from the region, but I don't think that was a genuine argument,
Mhm.
because she would be a member of the diaspora,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Barney Scotland, I'm talking about here.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
Yes.
obviously, there are other issues, other incidences when there might be a dissonance between Jamaica's position and that of the region, or Jamaica may appear to be coming late to the party
Mhm.
Yeah.
on some issues that CARICOM is forced to learn. Now, bear in
This is
mind
one of them.
that
This is
that
one of them.
that 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 Jamaica has traditionally been the country that leads the charge,
My point.
right? And unfortunately, some may be of the view that we're playing catch up on some of the issues, right? And that may be pause for some concern. But all in all, I do believe that Jamaica participation with CARICOM remains strong. My understanding is that an invitation has been issued for the heads of government to meet in Jamaica in July of this year. And interestingly, Rubio didn't just pay a visit to Jamaica, but he met with other Caribbean leaders in
Came to
bilateral
Rubio.
meetings here in Kingston, right?
Mhm.
Oh, so
So
the meeting was in Kingston with the other leaders?
yes, so
Oh, I
right.
thought he
Not
was
not all
traveling.
of them. Not all of CARICOM.
Not
Okay.
all of them. So
Just the
Okay.
handful.
Barbados I know for sure should have been present.
Haiti had a representative there.
80 should have been present. And then he's going now to go to Guyana and to Suriname, right?
Mhm.
But there were about three other prime ministers that are leaders, if not them, they're foreign ministers
That were
who would have been present
yeah.
and have bilateral meetings with Rubio while he was on ground here in Jamaica,
Yeah.
right? So from a purely foreign policy perspective, certainly the meeting in Jamaica, in Kingston, again, I think is a signal to the importance of Jamaica. But again, we can't overstate it. We have to be careful. The fact is that we are in some very colorful waters. I don't want to say uncharted, but colorful waters, right?
Yeah.
Because obviously, how this administration views its allies, one has to be very careful,
Very careful.
right? Because if you look at the fact that they are now at trade war with Canada, um, it tells you that you have to approach pragmatically and cautiously.
Yeah, you have to be careful. Um, I'm curious from your lens, in the context of budget presentations, in the context of these conversations, any home runs that you think were hit by the leading party and the opposition?
Yeah.
Home runs.
Okay. Well, let's start with the opposition first, right?
Hmm.
The piece on housing, I think, is a home run, and the PNP has had a track record in providing housing, completed units, and housing solutions for the Jamaican people, which is unmatched. And I believe uh, the leader of the opposition, I think it took up 8 pages. He outlined a menu of housing
Yes.
initiatives
Yes.
that will address the housing crisis that we have in Jamaica, because there's a housing crisis in Jamaica, right?
Yeah.
Those persons who are in the middle to low income bracket are having difficulty affording housing, So affordable houses, putting back money in NHT, carrying NHT back to its original roots. The Porsche initiative, where houses at a certain price point will be the focus of the administration going forward. The 500,000 deposit for first-time home buyers, young professionals, rent to own. These are initiatives that he has outlined in his budget, and I believe that those are positive things, right?
I have two questions for you
Yeah.
when you
Yes.
on the same point, right? One, the Prime Minister says NHT will commence construction of 19,575 units.
Mm-hmm.
What's the track record for the government,
The delivery.
existing government, versus completing 19,575 units?
All right. So far, they have not had an impressive track record where housing is concerned, right? And what they have done, they have made up numbers in terms of housing solutions versus completed houses, and there's a distinction. And
Oh,
the public
thank
and the
you.
public needs to know that,
Please
right?
do. Yeah.
A,
Oh my
hou-
God.
a housing solution can be a service lot. It's not a house, right?
Okay.
So the person will buy the lot and then they will build on it. That's a
Okay.
housing solution,
All right. I
right?
can go with that. Yeah, I can go with that.
And housing completed unit is that they build the house and you get the house, right?
Right.
So in relation to building houses that they hand over, that record is abysmal,
Very.
right? They have not met any targets as far as I am concerned, right? And it is true to form, because every time the Jamaica Labour Party is in government, they just don't deliver on completed houses. They don't. I don't know what is the problem.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the Prime Minister has been using social housing, where he has handed over, I think it's 300 social housing units to indigent persons.
Yes.
Now, he dubs that a new initiative.
Yes.
I'm not sure what is new about it,
Yes.
because that has been going on before,
For
right?
years.
Granted, now they're not using board house, they're using block and steel,
Yeah.
right? But you have had programs that have delivered indigent houses to people from
Always.
time immemorial, right?
Always.
Um, and one cocoa full basket, yes, but that is a drop in the ocean. And we're not dismissing it. It's still a good initiative. I celebrate it.
Mm-hmm.
But before he came to power, Portia Simpson Miller had handed out titles to
Yeah.
land, right? And this is another housing solution. So you have informal settlement and you regularize it,
Yes.
right? You give people titles so they can now go and build and get on with their life,
Yeah.
right? So I think the PNP has a stronger record on housing than the current administration.
Mm-hmm.
There were a lot of giveaways on the JLP side. They came back with the solidarity program, right? And I smile because I remember when Edward Seaga was alive and he announced the first solidarity program. It was about giving somebody a hand cart or a push cart to go and sell, and we're not discounting that, because many Jamaicans have built their lives from that. But
Yes.
here now, the JLP is giving away $1 billion, $20,000 each in
Time.
terms of grant,
Well, we
right?
discussed that right here just
Yeah,
before you came on,
right.
right?
So
And
yes,
my point to her was, it's a good time to announce it, because if you're going to give $20,000 to everybody before the election, it's capitalizing on an illegal act.
Yeah.
You
It's
know.
only 50,000 people getting it,
Oh, it's
Lynn.
only 50,000. Okay,
Yeah.
so
No, but look here. That 50,000 spread across constituencies,
that's my
Yes,
point. I
and
told
especially
her that.
especially if they are marginal, can make a
Exactly, that's what I
significant
told her.
yes,
I,
man.
that
can
is,
make
I
a
said,
significant can make a significant
yeah.
impact.
Yes,
But I
man.
suspect that's us being cynical, right? Um
It's because we've seen the games played.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, there's no doubt that this was an election budget, quite frankly, right?
Yes.
There's no doubt about it. Now, one of the things that they have attempted to do is to make the case that they are better fiscal managers, and that is not true, right? And they have attempted to rewrite history, right? They have attempted to revise history, and it's a strategy that they keep on doing, and positioning the fallout in the financial sector as a homegrown PNP created problem, which it was not.
Hmm.
The PNP, when Michael Manley returned to power in '89, had to shift from um, a mixed economy to a free market economy. And by that time, the Washington Consensus was ruling the day.
Yeah.
And we were the only country that had shifted to uh, liberalize the economy in a very sharp manner. The Russia did it and they went through what they call perestroika,
Yes.
and their economy imploded, but they were able to rebound. Jamaica's economy was small and open, so we took an impact and it took a longer time for us to rebound. Plus, we must also remember that in the 1980s, the dollar was artificially held at 5 to 1. It
Hmm.
was not informed by any productivity um, whatsoever. And in fact, even up to his death, um, Siaga was of the view that we should go back to a fixed exchange rate. So that conversation was still going on,
Yeah.
right? And places like Barbados still have a fixed exchange rate. But if they were to ever liberalize, they would find themselves in a similar or even worse
So
situation as
start
Jamaica
diving.
did,
So
right?
start diving,
No.
right?
You know,
Hmm.
and we can admit that the pace of liberalization was very aggressive, and therefore, companies were not able to make their adjustment in a timely manner. Many people went out of business and so on in relation to competition coming in.
Yeah.
And when they talk about bad PNP policy, again, there's no context. They have a spokesperson over there, a newly appointed senator, who like to talk about context, but no context was given in relation to the fact that we now had a different global environment. Borrowing from the IMF, you
And
had to follow their conditionalities or you would get no money, right?
yeah.
I want us to come off for this now for a minute because we are on a time thing and we want to go on to some other topics and we want you to be a part of this conversation. And the big one that we're going to talk about is that beach thing. Bring it up, the tourism thing there.
Oh yes. So we had promised our viewers and listeners that we would talk about tourism, but what we're really touching on is the access to beaches.
Mhm. Yeah.
I know they're, what's their name? Jambeen. What's the group that, kind of spearhead Jabem. Jabem
Mm.
that spearheaded this taking this to the courts, talking about disenfranchisement of Jamaicans not having access to beach, like, spaces like Blue Lagoon and so on. I know they went to court and they basically have been redirected. They basically have to go back to the drawing board because of some mishap in filing documents and so on. But what is your position, and what do you think the position is in the island actually
Yeah.
around this access to beach?
There's a law, before you answer, there's a law called the
Yes.
Jamaican Beach Control Act that was
Mhm.
implemented in
Yeah.
1956. Is that
Yeah.
law still the controlling law for this?
Yes. The you know one of the interesting things is that the opposition leader also addressed that matter, and his position is that Jamaicans should have access to the beaches. Right now, truth is that the law does allow access to beaches. There's also the Prescriptive Act, where if persons have been using a particular route to get to the beach and they have been using that for 20 years undisturbed, they acquire what is called prescriptive rights. So they can't be barred from
that
going
access.
on to the beach.
Yes.
I
No,
can read that for you.
yes.
The act declares that all beaches in Jamaica are under the control of the government, specifically minister responsible for lands, now usually the Minister of Housing, Urban Renewal, Environment. It says that the act requires individuals or businesses to obtain a license from the government to use beaches for commercial purposes, like hotels and resorts. While the government can grant private licenses, the act ensures that the public retains the right to access and use beaches, preventing complete privatization. They want to do that. But the government wants to make sure that the beaches are kept intact, clean, and free of illegal use.
Right. And regrettably, what happens sometimes is that you have the legislation, but then you have the practice.
Right.
Right? And there's usually some disconnect between the legislation and the practice.
Mm-hmm.
So when the hotels enclose the beach, in order to access it now, you either have to pay transit through the hotel and pay, and that sometimes is prohibitive or restrictive of the ordinary Jamaican just sauntering onto the beach,
And
right?
affording a day
And
pass.
right, and affording a day pass to go to the beach. So there is that issue of access. No, the Beach Control Act make it clear though that if you take it from the seaside, nobody can stop you, right? And similarly, fishermen, once it is proven that they have been fishing in that particular area, you can't stop them either from fishing. Now, obviously, they're fishing in the waters and not necessarily on the beach itself, right?
The first point that you make, clarified for me. If you take it from where? The land?
The
From
sea.
If you take it from the sea, explain that.
So you take a boat and access it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. Nobody can stop you.
Right. I got you. Yes.
No, as I'm saying, you can also have land routes, but you have to show that you would have had 20 years transit over that parcel, right? That's a prescriptive right. So take Reggae Beach in St. Thomas as an example, right? So there some developers look like they had eyes on there, and when got to the public that they were coming to take that beach, and they started to resist, right?
Yes.
And the same group that you spoke about would have relied on those two pieces of legislation, the Prescriptive Act and the Beach Act, in terms of making their arguments in relation to the court. But in theory, the Jamaican public can access beaches in theory, right? In practice, there is a challenge, because when the hotels have been set up, as I've said, and I'm repeating myself now, to get there, you have to either buy a day pass or be booked into the hotel.
So is that access? Okay, so is that called access because you have to pay for it? Access? That's access?
It is access. It is access. You're not denied,
Okay.
There's no there's no outright denial. But in reality, though, how many persons can afford $100, $120
So that's not
for a day pass? Right? So the point I'm making is this: is that there's an impediment or there's an impairment, but there's no prohibition.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
That distinction has to be made.
But
yes,
it's a cool and cute distinction. However, Leo, to answer your question, one of the terms they're using in the Blue Lagoon case is access by permission. So
yes.
But I think the problem with the Blue Lagoon is that it was privatized.
Yes.
And I'm not sure how that happened. Right?
I don't know how we allow that to happen.
Because nobody, in my view, can own the lagoon except the state, in my view.
Yeah.
So what they own is the land around the Blue Lagoon.
Yeah.
Not the Blue Lagoon.
No.
And that is why I'm saying, so even if there's private property along the Blue Lagoon, and there's a path, there's a footpath where
Yeah.
people have been transiting for 20 years, the fact of private ownership does not defeat that access.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
doesn't,
Yeah. And
right?
that is a major argument for the Blue Lagoon case in
Yeah,
particular, because they've cut off the path. They've put in a
you're right.
security guard and so on.
No, exactly. So that to me is what the basis of the challenge is,
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What is the
Yeah.
feeling in Jamaica about it though? Like I'm speaking to you from Canada. What is the feeling in Jamaica? Because I'm passionate about it because I see Barbados have all beaches are public in Barbados. You go to Trinidad, most beaches they'll say maybe one or two are private. And other islands they'll say they're all public access. So what is the feeling among Jamaicans? Because I don't feel like the
It,
push is heavy.
no, and I mean, I think that would be a fair observation. What I find is that and this is no criticism, right? Because, for instance, the group that you have spoken about, I know one of the organizers, right? And that person is a Jamaican but lives outside of Jamaica. So it seems to me that the Jamaicans in the diaspora are more, strident about the issue than Jamaicans here.
Mm-hmm.
And in the main, and I could be wrong, whilst some beaches are restricted in terms of access by the infrastructure that has been put on them, there are other beaches that Jamaicans have access to, right? So you can think about Bluefields, you can think about Elshire, you can think about Boardwalk, you can think about Yalas, you can think about Sansan, you can think about Boston, right?
Well, I can tell you about one. That's a Rockaway
Yeah.
side.
Mhm.
When I was growing up, we had 3 beaches.
Yeah.
They dredged out to build the Otrius Arbor that was supposed to be Rockaway Arbor. Okay. Well, it didn't happen. And then we had to know, as people in the community, we had to go and clean up our beach, clean up a
Yeah.
space that was our beach.
Yeah.
We clean it up, take out all of the big rock them, the big stone them, and we get sand. When we were done, we get sand, right? And then all of a sudden, Bob Marley, man, your name again?
Blackwell.
The white dude.
Blackwell.
Blackwell.
All of a sudden, in come and just take away the beach from it and build something around it and a charge with going out. And that's been going on for the last time.
Well, one such one that was controversial was Puerto Rico.
Yeah, I remember that too.
Puerto Rico was a public beach, right? You still had to pay. You still had to pay to go in there,
But it was a
right?
small amount of money. There wasn't anything
But then now, in fairness, one of the things that the government then was seeking to do was to create some public beaches like that one that would have amenities, but it would have a charge to go in because you have to maintain it, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if that model was executed as it was conceptualized, but I do know that there was some advocacy and some stridency in opposition of that, right?
Well, they did.
But
They did one in Montego Bay.
but in terms of the concept, though, I'm not opposed to the concept where
You have a
persons
small fee.
who may have an interest and have money upgrade these beaches and that they're accessible to Jamaicans. And I'm by no means supporting a situation where Jamaicans don't have access overall to beaches. I think Jamaicans should have access to the beach because it is a public resort.
I'd feel
right?
beach that. I'd feel beach that.
And
Right now, we can't even get into the place because it's closed.
and I think the government is well, not the government, but I think the opposition leaders yeah.
No,
The
Arnaldo, they have a nice beach in Harmony down in Montego Bay. They open a nice That's a nice thing.
No, right. So that is a concept. So the concept was to upgrade. So you have public beaches, So
Yeah.
Blue Fields is a public beach, right?
Mm.
Puerto Seca was a public beach. I think it's quasi private now
It's
because
positive.
I think the cover to go in there is must be about 5,000 Jamaican dollars, which is
Yeah,
a little bit steep per person,
yeah,
right? Yeah. And then you can bring your own food in there and that sort of thing.
Right.
And,
yeah.
that's another thing again now. Beach going for Jamaica is like a picnic. You carry your own food and
Yeah,
you carry your
man.
family,
Come
you know.
on,
Yeah.
hang
So
out
so
and
yeah,
Yeah.
so those are issues. Those are
Yeah.
issues that arise. Yeah.
Yes.
yeah, yeah,
Yes. Yes. Wicked. Wicked. Well, nice discussion on that one.
yeah. I mean, we challenge ourselves, but the beach thing will continue to be an issue, especially if we can't resolve it legally, and given that they keep getting turnaround. But
Yeah, I think one of the issues that they raised is this business about harassment, right?
yeah,
Yes.
But that to me has to be resolved.
Differently.
Yeah,
yeah,
I don't think you can use that as a justification
can't
Not at
use
to
it.
all. Not
Can't
at
lock
use
all.
their
it.
teeth.
Like, what are you
Yeah,
saying about the people that we don't know how to behave? We know how to behave
Yeah.
and we can behave.
yeah,
Yeah.
Um,
yeah.
so Arnaldo, I'm not gonna let you off the hook. I need you to give me the home run from.
From the Prime Minister.
I thought I did.
You,
He
you
I mean, I
said
mean,
did.
you said they
I,
did some
I,
giveaways.
I mentioned, yeah, I mentioned the solidarity program.
So that is the home run.
He didn't say to you that this is the home run, but he told you
Right?
about it.
Yeah, yeah,
But
that
but
is it.
I mentioned the solidarity program.
Yeah,
And the
Um,
$20,000.
yeah. I mean, look here. They are trying to make the case that they are better fiscal managers, right? And they are trying to own the turnaround that Jamaica has made. So they claim that they give credit to the opposition, give credit to the PNP, but then they turn around and say, but the PNP created all of this problem, right?
yeah,
So, like for instance, they try, so they give with one hand and they take back with the other,
yeah.
right? So I don't think they are genuinely seeking
No,
to share the credit.
no.
And therefore, when
And
you ask me,
to explain the process to the people, to
right,
explain how we got here.
right, when you're asking me about their home run, I mean I'm not being biased in terms because their argument is that they are so good at fiscal management that they deserve a third term.
Yes,
But they refuse to accept that we were in the conundrum we were in because of their administration between 27 and 2011.
yeah,
They entered into an IMF program that they abandoned,
yeah.
right? And we had to go and rescue it. And
And
then I see
build it.
them trying to give credit to former Prime Minister Golding as the architect of the reform when they are the ones who abandoned the thing. And in fact, those reforms go back to PJ because out of FinSAC, we had the Financial Services Commission, we had the several institutions, the Depositors Insurance Scheme. All of those things were byproduct of that meltdown in the 1990s, and it is that preserved us in 2008 when there was a global recession,
Yeah,
and the financial sector stood up to scrutiny,
yeah,
right? So I mean, they are revisionist in their history, and therefore I can't say that they made a home run when they try to claim all single-handedly the fortunes of Jamaica, even in terms of the reduction of the debt. The debt started to go down from the PNP was in office.
mm,
And part of the reason why the PNP lost in 2016 is because of the aggressive fiscal
yeah,
uh, discipline that we had to maintain.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, right? The aggressive fiscal discipline that we had to maintain to
Yeah.
get us to where we are now. So when they came in, they had no other choice but to follow the blueprint that was there,
It was already there.
right?
Yeah, yeah. Fair
They
enough.
got a easy wicket to bat on.
Yeah,
So
it's
so so when they come saying that we are the better
you are the
managers,
father.
nonsense them talking, them get a easy
You
wicket to bat on.
you are not the father. But thank you, Thank you for highlighting these
Yeah,
points. When the opposition leader came to Canada, he made a very, very clear point about how we got to this fiscal journey and the
yes,
role that both parties played, and he gave both their credit.
right. Hmm.
But we'll see how this goes. We thank you, Arnaldo, for
Yeah,
coming in and talking with us. We could talk to you for a long time because you are vastly diverse in your
yeah,
knowledge. So,
Yes.
I'm sure we'll reach out to you again.
sure.
Um, you
Anytime,
know,
anytime crisis come up, we call you.
Yeah, man, I appreciate it.
thank you,
All
thank you,
right.
thank you.
Take care.
Yeah, man,
Bye-bye.
thank you. Thank you.
All right. That was Arnaldo Brown, as you heard there. Kind of clarifying some of the points because he's on the ground, so
Yes.
he can better
And he
explain.
follows it. He follows it like to the T,
Yeah,
So
and he's a former minister, so
he's a former minister. So
he knows the runnings. He knows what it takes to get to a budget report.
and keep in mind that he is also biased because he's in the PNP party.
He's with the opposition.
Opposition.
He's with the opposition party. But
Yeah.
a good conversation overall. We're over time again, Leo. We have to work on this.
So you go. So you go.
Baby steps.
And times things sweet, you just have to go on
Yes,
with it.
yes. But we thank those of you who have joined in, and the comments were very limited today. But we see you nonetheless. We see you that you tuned in, you clicked like here and there, and so on. So
Well, you can start up the conversation, and then we start talk. When you just say, talk about.
yeah, man.
being
Anytime
man
we
about
get
the
hot topic, anytime we.
Yeah.
But now, given the time, I'm going to save the hot topic for next
All
week.
right.
I'm going to
All
push our music conversation to next week.
All right, cool.
Because we're going to go. But good again to see you, Leo. And,
Same here, man.
we'll talk. We'll talk
Yeah,
this week coming.
respect. It's always nice talking to you. I thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to have a honest, true to life conversation. So I don't have to hold back anything because the topics that we are talking about is neither here nor there in terms of one side or the other. It's just honest conversation. I tell you about how I feel about things, and you do the same thing. This is great.
Yeah. So we look forward to seeing you guys next week at 7 Eastern Standard Time for Caribbean Currents with your hosts, Danae Peart and Dr. Leo Gilling. See you soon.
Bye-bye now.